One of the challenges of going through a conversion process is that you live in two different worlds. You have one foot in the Jewish world, you're living your life as a Jew, but then you got your other foot living in the non-Jewish world, like you're not quite there yet. Right? Me, I'm in a shul, I'm the 10th man. And they can't start Shachrit, the morning service, because they don't have 10 Jewish men. So there have been multiple times where I'm in shul and they have to look over me, and they like, okay, we need one more, So after a while, it gets like, God, please let me speed this up for me, please. And it was so kind. My Rabbi Senior, he would always come to me and he would just kind of put his hand on my shoulder and he said, listen, he was like, I know. He'll give me a hug sometime. He was like, it's coming, stay patient. I really appreciated that.
Welcome back to another special episode of Stories of Hope. Wow. This week we are featuring Akiva and Chava, House of Lev, all the way from, drumroll, Israel. This episode is going to blow your mind. You'll enjoy watching their journey unfold right in front of you, their love story, their convert story, having them share what was difficult and what continues to be difficult, while also sharing what inspires them and ultimately what will inspire you. I'm so grateful. I'm so excited. So grab your friends, grab your food of choice, or enjoy listening to this on your way to work or at work. I won't tell your boss. Just get cozy and comfortable, or multitask like a boss, and get ready for another excellent special episode of Stories of Hope. Before we jump into the episode, I want to talk to all of those multitaskers, anyone who just sometimes needs a break and you just kind of want to scroll through and do something brainless on your phone. I'm going to give you an opportunity where you can scroll and yet maybe come out with something great. And that's with PZ Deals. Yes, it's the app that will give you what you're looking for, the deals you've been searching, the prices you've been waiting for. Just take 30 seconds to personalize the app so that it directly feeds you what you want. It's a free app. It's a free app that saves you money. I mean, what else? What else do you want? So before the episode, after the episode, while pausing the episode, or even during the episode for my multitaskers, ADHDers, download the free PZ Deals app. Just download the free app and never pay full price again. Do you have a wedding coming up? Maybe it's even your own, and you're looking for that perfect dress, that company that you can work with that's just a pleasure and that will promise what they preach. I have heard way too many horror stories of people that worked so hard to create the dress of their dreams only for it to turn out to be a nightmare. And that's why I'm really excited to tell you all about Raquel Couture. Raquel Couture has been in the business for over 30 years, providing the highest fashion in evening and bridal wear. If you are looking for something and you have a vision and you want it to meet your expectation, then that is exactly what Raquel Couture specializes in, making sure that every dress is unique, like no other, an item that you'll stand out in because nobody else has it. Not only do they specialize in personalizing beautiful, beautiful dresses, but they're also a pleasure to work with. They're located in Brooklyn and Lakewood, so not too difficult to get to. And if you tell them that you heard about them from Stories of Hope, you'll get an extra 5% off your next purchase. So if you're looking for that perfect dress along with an easy, smooth experience, then check out Raquel Couture on Instagram and you'll know that everything I said is right there to prove it. So choose Raquel Couture for your next wedding, celebration, whatever it is. They're the people you want to reach out to. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. My, oh my, never did I think I'd have the honor of sitting with Akiva and Chava. In my mind, your last name is House of Lev, but I don't even think I know your last name.
It's Hart.
Hart is the last name.
Yeah. Did you choose that?
Yeah, no, that's
your last name.
Yeah,
so appropriate for.
But that's like our whole thing. like we were thinking about, we started like a whole YouTube thing, right? And our whole initial YouTube was first about marriage. And we were like, okay, if we're going to do like this YouTube and this, like, I don't want it to be about us. I want it to be about Hashem.
And it was called House of Hearts
And
at
it was
first.
House of Hearts, yeah. And but we were like, no. Like, let's change that. Let this be about, all about Hashem. So we were like, what's the Hebrew word for heart? And that's how we came up with that.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like people are usually lucky if their first name reflects who they are. And you got the last name too. So you guys scored big time. I mean, I feel like your destiny was already, kind of giving you a little bit of a wave before you even knew it. And I know everyone listening is so excited to hear how everything started from the beginning. So Chava, can you give us a picture of what your background is like, where you're from?
Yeah. So I was actually raised by a single mother. Didn't have much of a relationship with my father growing up. Did not really know him much at all. My mother, she was actually raised Catholic as a kid growing up. She actually lost her father at a teenage age. And I think she just had so many, honestly, like just challenges. But my mom is very inspiring to me because to see her be a single mom and to see her just push through and take care of 4 kids on her own. And she battled with a lot of challenges in her life. And so I think, I really admire just her strength overall. And I would say like a lot of my strength came from her. I did not have like a spiritual background. Like I was not raised like Christian, anything like that. I just knew that my mom had a relationship with God. I would actually see her pray every single night. And I was like very intrigued with that, but we didn't really talk much about it. I just watched. And that's how I knew. I was like, okay, my mom has a relationship with God. I know there's a higher power. It's not just us. And I feel like that was, that guided me so much of just who I became and my relationship with God and just my whole perspective and view of just life. Because it's interesting, like, today we, it's this whole concept of hibodadu, right? Having secluded prayer and time with God. And it's like, my mom was kind of doing that and not even knowing like she was doing that and like talking to God. And there'll be moments I will actually hear her like talking to God like out loud. And that's like a thing that Rabbi Nachman talks about. He talks about, talking to Hashem and speaking out loud to him, having this relationship. So that's why I say a lot of like things that I saw from her, it really helped me, I think, on my journey of just growing closer to Hashem. So yeah, that's a little bit just about how I was raised. I was actually very athletic, growing up. So I did track, basketball, volleyball. I actually got injured my sophomore year in high school and I tore my ACL meniscus, which was very devastating because I was pretty good in track. Like I was on the road of like getting a scholarship, going to Junior Olympics, all of that. And then that changed basically everything in the whole direction. Like I had a plan. I was going to move out of state, go to a college in Florida. Wow. But Hashem always has a plan because if that didn't happen, I don't know if I would have met my husband. So then that whole journey came about. And I don't know if you want to share.
We'll pause you right here at the cliffhanger. That's amazing. What city were you born in?
I was born in well, actually it's called Pontiac, Michigan, but I was raised in Rochester, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Akiva, what about you?
So I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I grew up in a very, very awesome, loving family, very, very strong Christian family. And my family were families of singers and musicians, and family and spirituality. That was our life. That was how I was raised. My grandparents taught me that you want to make sure that whatever you do in your life, keep God first. And went to church multiple times a week, just the whole thing. That was really a part of my whole upbringing. Grew up, went to a performing arts high school. So I got into singing and dancing. That's where that love developed. Well, I think because I grew up around it, so I believe it was always in me. Yeah. So my mom put me into a performing arts high school, and that really, really allowed me to hone in on some different talents of mine. And had a time of my life in high school. It was just awesome. It was kind of like that, like High School Musical kind of thing, literally like in the hallways, people are like doo-wopping and dancing.
Who were you? Were you Zac Efron? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Oh man, I know it. No, so much fun. But that really like propelled me to my my career. After high school, I went straight on the road as a professional dancer. So in high school, I was like known for the choreographer. I was the high school choreographer. So I would do like the talent shows, started work with different groups in my school. And then afterwards, I said, this is something I really want to pursue. And started booking different jobs around the state, went on the road, did some tours, some videos. And I said, I didn't want to go to college because this was something that I really loved at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it's so interesting because I find that the African American community is very talented in the entertainment industry. I find that people vocally are really talented in dance. And I was always kind of curious, like on a Kabbalistic level, what the interconnectivity is. I don't know if you have any insight.
Somebody actually asked before that question to you of like, what was it? Somebody else mentioned that of like, what was it about like the African Americans of like, why were they so gifted in the musical? And do you remember?
I don't know. I think when it comes to African American community, I think some of it comes from life. Like for example, like African Americans were kind of raised in slavery in the Americas. And one of the ways that they would communicate how they feel, escape routes, and all these different things, they would communicate it through song, right? So a lot of that power and the soul came from different things that they were experiencing. And so I believe that's maybe one of the reasons why, it connects so strong because it comes from such a deep place.
Fascinating.
Maybe, but at Kabbalistic level, I'm not sure. Maybe some deeper levels.
Fascinating. Yeah. And I know that in Judaism, I mean, we connect through song. Through the base of Mikdash is how we connect to God. And, we have talent. It's a different kind of talent, but that's something I've always wondered. And it's so interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
So how did the two of you meet?
Yeah. So that's the question right there. So it's interesting. I was 20 at the time. He was 21. And we met at a nightclub. And it was so funny because that particular night, my friend was like begging me to go out. And I was like, I'm not going out. And it was all the way in Detroit. So remind you, I lived in Rochester. Detroit was about a 45-minute drive. So it's like, I'm not driving 45 minutes. And she wanted me to drive.
Oh.
Because she didn't have a car. And I was like, I'm not going. I was like, we can go to a club close by. And she's like, no, let's go to Detroit. And so I go to Detroit and I meet my husband.
Yep.
And I literally, like, he likes to share about it, but I'll share briefly. Like, I was literally I came out of one club and I was outside and I was talking to a photographer guy. And, he was talking to me about like, do I model and like things like this. So then I guess my husband, he walks by and he notices me and I didn't even see him yet, but he comes right up to the guy and I'm like, wow, like that was very bold, but I didn't know he knew him. So then he knew him and then he started like, talking to me. And at the time, my husband, like he was doing like tours, his own like music tours. He had like his own singing thing going on. And so he gave me a flyer of his because he was like promoting himself that night as well too. And so he gave me a flyer, we chatted for a little bit, and then we ended up going into the same nightclub. So then I went into another nightclub. We did not talk much really in the nightclub.
But I was watching her the whole night though.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was watching me because he was in VIP and I was not in VIP.
Oh.
No, it's okay. But yeah, so he was like, I guess watching me the whole time. And then it was like towards like the very end of the club, like he came down and we started chatting. We exchanged numbers and then everything's like history from there. Went on our first date like 2 weeks later and we were inseparable from there. Yeah. And we got married 10 months later.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like we were already on the Jewish path for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, you pretty much were closer to the Jewish path than you realized. And and I'd love to hear your version of the story.
Yeah, so she forgot the slow motion part.
Okay.
So, so when I was coming into the club, while I was walking up, it was one of those moments for me. I saw her talking to a friend of mine, and it was a slow motion thing. It was like, oh. My world just kind of stopped, and went up, and I pushed my friend out the way, and I introduced myself, and then the rest was kind of history after that. And it was just a beautiful thing. We were just we were inseparable after that first date. And when you know.
Yeah. And I think what was interesting, I was so intrigued with him because I remind you, like, I didn't have like this whole like spiritual background like he did. Like, he was raised Christian and all that, but I can tell how much he loved God. And I felt that, and I knew that. And I was like, he's really a good guy. Like, he's really got, like, even when he first approached me and talked to me, he was like looking at me in my eyes. And I just felt like, wow, like, he really wants to get to know me. And so that was like the whole reasoning. I feel like, I gave him my number, and I was like, okay, I want to know more about this guy. And like you said, it was first date, and then we were inseparable after that.
It sounds so beautiful and sweet. If only it was that simple.
I know.
And what motivated you to get married after 10 months? I would imagine that was unusual in your social circles.
Well, it's interesting because for him, it really was not, because being raised like Christian, like they did believe like strongly, like you shouldn't just be dating for like, you should be, you should get married, especially like we were living together. I moved in like 4 months, quick. I think 4 months after dating. And I was so excited to move. I was like, yes, okay. But we moved in like 4 months after dating. And then we talked about it, and we were like, okay, if we're going to do all this, like, we should get married. Yeah. And so it was like more normal for his side of the family, but maybe not as normal for mine. My mom really liked him, so it was all positive. And we actually got married in Vegas.
Las Vegas. So
Vegas style way?
Vegas.
Kind of, but a little bit nice.
Elvis Presley wasn't there.
Yeah, it was a little bit nicer. Like, my whole family came to the wedding. Like, our plan was like, let's just go to Vegas, get married,
just
right?
her and I,
and then we'll have another wedding. Like, we'll come back. But then my family was like, no, we want to be there and all this. And so I knew that his family couldn't all make it. So that was like my whole point of like, let's just have us go. They insisted. And so then my family was there. His family was not. And I felt so bad, but it is what it is. And we ended up not having, we did have a second wedding being Jewish, but but that ended up being like our own, like our main like wedding.
Yeah. That sounds fun. And how long have you been married for?
17 years.
Yeah, almost 18.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy, because you both look 18.
Thank you very much.
It kind of is confusing to hear you've been married for 18 years. So you'll have to tell everyone the secret afterwards. But we'll be right back to our episode. But first, you have to check out Pizza Bizza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor, in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Bizza and visit them at pizzabizza.com. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me, Pizza Bizza, on Instagram, and check them out at pizzabizza.com. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Bizza, I'll see you at my next event. If you're getting married or know someone getting married, let's talk about one of the most meaningful parts of a Jewish wedding, the kasuba. For some people, you may have seen it just as a regular piece of paper, but this is actually a symbol that represents the harmony, the beauty of your relationship. Ketubah.com takes your kasuba and turns it into the beautiful piece of art that it really is. With over 500 different designs and artists from all over the world, you can personalize the perfect kasuba of your dreams with a team that works intimately with you, making sure that your design and your words are exactly what you want. Ketubah.com guarantees a kasuba that's probably better than you even dreamed. Get this beautiful design as a gift or for yourself from Ketubah.com. Tell us a little bit about what led to your journey of Judaism.
Yeah. So throughout our marriage, we were practicing Christianity. That's all I knew. That's how I was raised. And so, growing up, the way that I was taught, and I believe a lot of other people raised in Christianity could also attest to this, is that, you just believe, and like for me, as I started growing in spirituality, I wanted more. We wanted some substance, and it was just like, oh, just believe by faith, and it was no structure. You can just kind of figure things out how you want, And we started asking questions. We want to know, why do we believe what we believe? What does all these things mean? What is this piece here? What's this piece here? What explain? We want to know about this New Testament situation here, and people couldn't give us answers, and that it was frustrating, and it started raising more questions. Like, okay, how come people don't have answers for these things where it's pretty simple when you look at what they call the Old Testament? It's right here. And so in that search, we started doing what you call church hopping. We're jumping from this one to this one to this one, because there was something that we were searching for, looking for that truth. And so one day I got a call from a cousin of mine, and he just said, out of the blue, he said, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to rock your world. You're probably not going to believe it, but I believe that all of the African Americans in America are the real children of Israel." And so I said, "Man, what are you talking about? What is this? What are you talking about? Why are you calling me with this stuff?" And he's like, "Man, no, read this." And so they pointed to this, Deuteronomy 28. And so and he started sending me some videos of these, this group called Hebrew Israelites. And the particular videos that he sent me were people that were very, very militant, very aggressive, very hostile, a lot of times, videos I saw, people were racist, and it was this thing, standing on a street corner, yelling at people who were white, and saying that they had this theory or this idea that European Jews stole their identity. It's a long thing. It's a big, big thing. And so there's a lot of different groups within this Hebrew Israelite circle. Some are extreme, some are not. Some are some very, very loving people. Some are a lot of them are very educated. Very, very smart. As a matter of fact, as we started, learning and kind of exploring more, we quickly dismissed a lot of the aggressive things because we didn't feel God there.
No, not at all.
I said that there's something here. It's something that's like causing me to want to look further. But the part where it feels like hatred and all that, I don't feel connected to this. So we started looking more and more and more, and because they had a thing about Orthodox Jews, especially Jews of European descent, and they didn't really care too much for them. So what did we do? We started researching Orthodox Jews, the people that they didn't like, and this whole world opened up, Judaism and the Torah, and they were and the reason that it also really kind of
connected was
they were talking about the Torah, which was something that I've never heard of. So there was some emphasis on Moshe Rabbeinu and Moshe, and so the way I grew up, Moshe was nowhere in existence. They didn't even talk about Moshe. And so that's why it was connecting, looking further into it. And so then we started looking at, like, okay, well, what about the diversity in Judaism? And, are there other, Orthodox Jews or other Jews that look like us? So we started literally searching on Google, like, Black Orthodox Jews.
What pops up?
Nissim Black. Nissim Black pops up. And so then we're blown away because here's this guy who wasn't born Jewish. He had this crazy background, and he was a recording artist, and I did music, so I connected with that. And then we didn't even know that you can convert to Judaism. We're like, you can only be born Jewish. So it was just this whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then that's when it really opened up. We're like, wow, there's a whole different world out there. And it's beautiful, They got this thing called Shabbat. They have a specific diet. They only eat certain foods, and we just couldn't get enough. At the same time, while we were learning, we started getting scared though, because we said, you know what? Especially for me, if this is true, that means that what I've been taught my whole life is a lie.
Can't imagine what that feels
Yeah.
like.
It was scary.
And this whole part we didn't like emphasize, like this was 2018 when we really started going like deeper into Judaism and discovering it. And when he got that phone call, 2018. And so like he said, we kind of like paused for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it was more so of like him wanting to put it down because, you know, he was strongly raised in this belief. And it was so hard for him to believe that one Messiah that he was taught was their Messiah is not. For me, I was like, they're probably right. Like, yeah, because I was questioning a lot of that while we were in Christianity. I had so many questions about things too that just things didn't add up and it makes sense. So obviously when we were going on this path of Judaism and his cousin telling him those things and we're learning new things, I'm like, this makes sense. It was literally like a light bulb just going off. And we were like, this is it. And even just the structure is what we were looking for. Within Christianity, there's no structure. And I think that's why we were so lost. And we kept trying to look for that going from church to church. And it's like, we're not going to find that. And so with Judaism and seeing everything and like, like Sabbath, like that was what really was like, we're going to do this. We're going to go all the way. We want to keep the Sabbath because we were kind of living our life like Noahides, you know, and because we didn't know you can even convert until we found out. We found East Black. And it was like 2021 that we made that decision that we want to convert. And
I would imagine if I was in your position, Google couldn't work only thus far. How did you figure out what that next step would look like?
Yeah, that's the next part.
So in the Google search, Black Orthodox Jews, I was able to meet a lot. And this was, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Oh my gosh, these are, I can, you know, because it was important for us to be able to find a connection somewhere.
Of course.
To be able to know that, like, wow, the Jewish people is like a rainbow. Like, it's not just one color. It's more like it's diverse. It doesn't just look one way. It's a colorful people. And that, when I started seeing that there, you know, the B'nai Menashe, you know, it was Jewish communities in Africa, it was Jewish communities in Australia, in China, all these different places. I'm like, this is amazing. This is it, you know? And so there was one particular gentleman, I always have to talk about it because he's a part of our story. His name is Yehuda Price. Maybe you know him.
Of course, I've been trying to get him on the podcast.
Amazing. I really hope it works out because he's an incredible individual. So I came across his profile on Instagram, and it said Beth Jacob of Irvine on this particular picture. He was getting called up for an aliyah, right? Meaning getting called up to the Torah, and this particular city, Irvine, was a city that we were considering, you know, at that time.
It was all Hashgacha Prati. Like, we were already looking in Irvine. It was like mind blowing how it was all happening.
Yeah. And so we connected, reached out. He immediately reached back out to me, connecting. I was asking him a bunch of questions. He converted and he had a crazy, crazy story. And he was in prison for a long time and all these different crazy things. And so I said, tell me more about your community. And so he mentioned Rabbi Seener of the Beth Jacob of Irvine community. And he helped facilitate his conversion. And I said, okay, well, you know, can you see if it's okay for me to reach out? Talk to the rabbi, got the email. I wrote a long, long letter explaining our story, our life. And the very next day, Rabbi Seener reached back out to me. And it was a total, like, it was unexpected. I didn't think that this rabbi who don't know me from anywhere would respond.
So fast.
He responded fast the very next morning. And he said, I read your email. You know, you have a very, very interesting story. I would love to meet you. I would love to sit down with you and your family. And at the end of the message, he says, welcome home, brother. Welcome home, brother. And it was at that moment where I was like, wow, this is a rabbi. never even talked to a rabbi. He doesn't know me at all. But the fact that he felt my heart in this email, and he saw me as a brother. It was everything. Yeah. And I said, this is, we got to go meet this. We got to go meet this man.
And he actually even asked, he said, I would love to meet your family. Let's set something up. And it was like 2 weeks later, we came down there because we were living in LA at the time. Mm-hmm. And like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive, we drove to Beth Jacob, met him, and it was just like, this is it. And so he ended up telling us, okay, what are the next steps that we need to take? He obviously was like, you got to now, fill out the application, go to the Beit Din. The Beit Din was in LA. And, we ended up doing all of that. The Beit Din said, okay, if you guys are serious about this, you have to move to the community now. And we were, like we said, we were living 2 hours away. Our lease wasn't up for another 8 months. Mm. So then our rabbi was like, we want your family to just get really like familiar with the community, how Shabbat works. So he suggested, just drive on Shabbat. Like if you want to come every Shabbat, you can. If you want to come a couple months. So we decided to come like a couple times throughout the month. Mm. And it was the most beautiful experience. When we first stepped foot into Beth Jacob, there was not people just like staring at us awkwardly or weird. Nobody was asking us, are we converts or are we converting? It was nothing but love, respect, and welcome. Yeah. And our rabbi ended up telling us that our particular shul was one of the diverse shuls in America, which it very was. So we had Asian, we had Hispanic, we had the Yemenites there. I mean, it was just Guatemalan. It's so beautiful to see the diversity at the shul and just the love and the respect for everybody. And everybody was as on their own level in their journey. And I think that's what made the shul just so special. Yeah. So special to us. It was a perfect place for us. Our Rabbi Rebbitzin, they're phenomenal people, and they're doing such a phenomenal job with that shul, and just the community aspect is unbelievable.
Wow. And I'm curious to hear if people meet you and they don't really have a relationship with you, if you go someplace and one of the first things people say is like, are you a convert? Does it feel not so welcome? Does it bother you?
Sure, it does. It also depends on the context of the conversation. Yeah. If they're asking, we can always tell where the question is coming from. Mm-hmm. We've had people ask us from a place of they're like prying because they don't believe that we're Jewish because we're black. Mm. So we can always tell when that's the come from. But there's also people who are literally just curious. Mm-hmm. But for us, we don't like when people say like, so are you a convert? Because we're not a convert. We converted to Judaism, mm-hmm. and that's the difference. Yeah, we're one according to the Torah. We are 100% Jewish, right? And and we try not to take it personal because the people who are maybe coming from that place, maybe they're just uneducated on what the Torah talks about, because you're not supposed to you're not supposed to remind a person, you're not supposed to ask at all, right? It's nobody's business. And so.
People definitely don't know, and that's why I hope it's okay that I asked how you feel, so that anyone listening knows that even if it's to initiate conversation, even if you're curious, mm-hmm. it compromises our goal, which is always to make people feel welcome, to connect in a positive, loving way. Yeah. And people don't know unless they're told. Right. So I so appreciate you being honest and not just like candid and polite, because politeness can lead to pain. Yeah. We need to be honest. 100%. So that's so good to know. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I always kind of live by, I heard somebody said a long time ago, like you have to teach people how to treat you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so like you said, if you got to be honest, you got to let people know where you are. If not, then it won't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I so hear that loud and clear. If someone says, are you a convert? Aside from the obvious reasons that you already mentioned, you almost feel like, no, I'm Jewish.
Right, exactly.
I'm Jewish. Stop taking that away from me.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course.
If you've ever wanted something more than anything in the world, then you've probably tried a segula or two. And if you're anything like me, then you've been dejected and disappointed when it seems like it didn't work. And that's why I love this organization called Better Than a Segula. Like their name, we learn on Simchas Torah, Ein Segula Ketorah. There is no better segula than Torah study. What this organization does is they have a group of Torah scholars that will learn something on your behalf in the zechus of what you want. And even better, the entire process is personalized. They can study a certain daf in the Gemara for 40 days, whatever you want, whatever speaks to your heart, whatever you connect to, you can let them know. So if this is something that you would find supportive, inspiring, and encouraging, you can contact them by either clicking the show notes below or take out your phone and call them at 732-364-7029. That's betterthanasegula.org, Better Than a Segula, an organization that's there to support you in the way that they know how to and in the way that they can. So what was your first Shabbat meal like, or Shabbat experience?
Oh, wow. I remember Friday night.
Yep.
So leading up to it, right after we got out of the mikveh, I said, Hashem, I know it's different now. Because before, one of the challenges of I'll come back if you don't mind.
Of course.
One of the challenges of going through a conversion process is that you live in two different worlds. You have one foot in the Jewish world. You're living your life as a Jew. But then you got your other foot living in the non-Jewish world. Like you're not quite there yet.
Right.
Right? Me, I'm in a shul. I'm the 10th man. And they can't start Shachrit, the morning service, because they don't have 10 Jewish men. So there have been multiple times where I'm in shul, and they have to look over me, and they like, okay, we need one more, So after a while, it gets like, God, please let me speed this up for me, please. And it was so kind. My Rabbi Senior, he would always come to me, and he would just kind of put his hand on my shoulder and say, "Listen," he's like, "I know." And he'll give me a hug sometime. He was like, it's coming, stay patient. I really appreciated that, but I wanted to say all that to say, it's, I was asking Hashem, whenever it's time, I want to experience the difference of what it feels like to keep Shabbat as a Jew versus, not being Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And he heard my prayer because it was Friday night, Erev Shabbat. And, there's a part where it's taught that on Shabbat, we get another Jewish neshama, right? You get another Jewish soul, right? It comes down on this particular part of the service. And I told, because I knew that. And I said, Hashem, I want to feel it. So at that part, I was anticipating, and right at that part, I felt it.
Oof.
And I was picturing another neshama coming on me, and it hit me. And then I had these hot, warm tears that just started sliding down my face, and I'm like, thank you, Hashem. This is what I wanted.
During which prayer was that?
Mizmor Shir.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about you?
Yeah, so that experience was so beautiful for me too, because, like he said, you have one foot in, one foot out. And I feel like when, lighting Shabbat candles, it's like, yes, I'm so excited to do this, but you don't have that feeling yet, that connection. And when I got to do that officially as a Jew, it was something. I've never bawled my eyes like lighting candles until that moment. But if I could be 100% honest, I've never felt Shabbat the way that I feel since being here
in Israel.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's I get emotional like every Shabbat, and I can it's such a difference I can't even explain. Because as much as I'm anticipating, I want it in America, I want it, I wanted this feeling. I don't know, it's something here. It's so beautiful, and it's a feeling you just can't explain. But it's like I can feel the Kedusha's it's so much more. so much more. But that first experience, there was definitely a difference from when I was always lighting to lighting as officially, being Jewish.
Yeah, it's like now, experiencing Judaism in Israel, it's kind of like when you're in America, there is a lot of other stuff. And there could be this beautiful light, but there's things getting in the way.
Sure.
And in Israel, that stuff isn't here.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just light.
Yeah.
And so, greater impact.
Yeah.
And you're so brave. You're so brave for me. How long have you been here?
2 months.
2
a little
months
over
now.
2 months.
Yeah.
Brand new.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And
Israel is blessed to have you,
Oh.
enrich their country. And your community is so lucky to have you too.
We're happy.
For sure. Yeah, we're very happy. Like, we love it. We feel so much just at peace. And you can even see it within our kids, too. It's very special to see with our older. I'm like, man, I haven't seen them like this happy in a long time.
It's true.
And
Wow.
it's, yeah.
And that brings me to my next question. When you joined the Jewish people, the Jewish family, did you have kids at that time?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
All 8 of us had to go in the mikveh. My son,
You have 6 children?
I have 6
Mhm.
children. My 4-month-old had to even go into the mikveh.
What ages were they at the time?
So at the time it was 4. Hey, how long? No, it was 5, 3. Yeah. No. She wasn't even. She was 2. So it was 5, 2, 1, and 4 months. And then a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old at the time.
Sounds like you were already Jewish.
Yeah.
In a family like that.
Well, at the time of the mikvah,
That's the mikvah.
when everything started,
Okay.
it was a couple years younger. So
Yeah.
when we started our journey, we only had, I think, 4
So
kids.
yeah, when we started our journey, no.
3
When we
kids.
started our journey, no, it was 4. Yeah, you're right, because Aaliyah was 1 year old. So yeah, it was 4 at the
Yeah.
time when we started, because that was 2018. We actually had, it was a huge gap because I have my 16, 15, and then 6-year-old. She was actually, my 6-year-old was born in that year that we started getting really serious
Right.
about
Wow.
Judaism. Yeah,
And what was the reaction of your older children?
they loved it. That's the thing is our kids, our older 2, they're very inquisitive. They ask questions, and within Christianity, so many things, you can even ask them. They'll say things that didn't make sense. They just didn't really understand a lot. They would want to ask questions, and we'll have to say, I can't answer that. And then here we go, we're studying Judaism, and we're like, this is the answer for that. This is the answer for this. This is that. And they're like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And they wanted this for themselves. That's the biggest thing. The Beit Din would not have converted us if our older kids didn't want it. It was
Wow.
our whole conversion was for our older kids. They knew we wanted it, but they wanted to make sure our older ones did, and they saw they wanted it.
And once you converted, socially, what was that like for your older children?
Yeah, so everything I think honestly is Hashgacha Pratit leading up to Judaism. So I homeschooled my kids from 2nd grade on. So they didn't have this outside world that was going to be dictating whether they're going to want Judaism. This our value system was instilled in our kids, and we were teaching whatever we were learning, we were teaching our kids.
Wow.
And then on top of that, which is interesting, we went vegan. So then the Beit Din, they were like, okay, we just want to warn you, you can't just go to a Burger King and McDonald's. We were like, we haven't done that in 5 years. We've been vegan. Right? So it was so
We're ready.
simple.
We're
Everything
ready.
was just, we were so ready. It was just an easy
Hashem
Here
was
we
just
go.
he was grooming us.
He was grooming
the
us.
whole
Yeah,
time.
every
Yeah.
little detail.
Yeah.
literally.
And what
yeah.
about your family's reactions?
Now that was a challenge, I would say,
Yeah.
for us. For sure.
Yeah. Most were absolutely shocked,
Mhm.
especially again, growing up Christian, strong Christians, the reaction was like, this is not how you were raised.
Yeah.
This goes against completely everything that we taught you. And so literally I have family members who disowned me.
Oof.
And I have some family members who are still loving and supportive. And so it's I have days where it's harder than others because I want to connect with my family.
Of course.
I
Of course.
want to be able to share these incredible moments that we're having here and as a Jewish family and what we're learning, what we're experiencing, what we're thinking. And with some people I just can't. So that cutoff is it's pretty wild that I have that there's a legit cutoff with main family members.
It's lost.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Oof,
It's crazy.
so hard.
And it's for both of us. That's both of our families. It's like we have just this cut off, or like, and it's just they just don't understand our decisions. If you don't want to understand why we do what we do, then you're never going to have a connection or want to appreciate what we're doing. At least, like, you don't have to like agree with us.
Yeah.
But like his brother, we always have to shout out his brother and their family, because he actually asks questions and he cares so much. Like, he's very proud of what we're doing and our decisions. And he might not understand everything, but I think it's so beautiful that he wants to learn and understand, have an understanding.
Yeah, we went into this life, this journey, not expecting anybody to get it.
Right.
All we wanted, just accept.
Yeah.
Just know that, like, trust us. You raised us, right? One thing I would tell certain family members, I'm like, listen, I want you to know that you raised me to make good decisions in life. I'm not a crazy person who's going to put my family in harm's way, like especially moving to Israel. That was a whole different thing, But converting to Judaism, I was like, listen, at the end of the day, I know you're not going to get it, but listen, my wife is happy. My kids are happy. We're happy. We're not crazy. Like when they would see us, we didn't change. Our philosophy just changed. Our thinking just changed. Right? But we're still the same people. We're still silly. We're still got the same jokes or whatever. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. So
I actually also kind of want to know how you picked your names.
Oh yeah.
Your Jewish names.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, I was like battling the whole time of like our journey of just like, because we were in the process for about 2.5 years. And so that whole time I was like, okay, what do I want? Like, literally Chava Amuna like came to me like mikvah day. And I chose Chava because, Chava was always like in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure if like, okay, was I going to use that for my first? Was this going to be my middle? And I thought about Chava because obviously Chava is like the creation of all, the Jewish people. And for me, I feel like that's kind of what, I mean, I'm never on that level, but that's kind of like what we're starting for our family is like, I am that, the matriarch for our family.
Wow.
And it just, I don't know, it felt so right. And then Amuna, obviously I live my life based off of Amuna, and everything that we do and things that happen and just trusting in Hashem. It's all about Amuna and bitachon. And so I really connected so much with those two names.
So powerful. And I have children. I want to call you up for some like resourcing. Oh my goodness. You are the Chava of this new legacy that the two of you have created. It's extraordinary. Thank you.
Of course.
What about you?
Yeah. Well, just to add on, Amuna is like, it's her essence, like the reason that we're here in Eretz Israel is, I believe, because of her Amuna. And, she helps me and our family just constantly have the right perspective in life to understand that Hashem runs the world, and nothing happens if he doesn't allow it to happen. And that's her whole essence. So I just wanted to throw it in there. She probably wasn't going to say it. Akiva, I fell in love with Rabbi Akiva's story. Obviously, I mean, I can go on and on and on about the different aspects of his life. He was a huge, Talmud Chacham. I mean, he was the guy. What really stood out about Rabbi Akiva's story was his relationship with his wife. And they hit some very, very hard times before he was who he was. And, his wife never left him. She stayed, believed in him. And when it came time for him to kind of go to that next level, to go learn, it was because of her. She encouraged it, and he became who he was because of his wife, and I think about my whole life, our marriage. I am who I am today because of my wife, 1000%. And yes, I mean, that's really why I really took on the name Akiva. And then Nachman. So at the beginning of our Jewish journey, I started I started learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and it changed my life. You know, the practicality, the simplicity of his teachings. It was, you know, like she mentioned earlier, Judaism, it gave me a structure and a path to connect to Hashem. It was just a path. It was just do this, you're connected. Rabbi Nachman, he really helped me understand why the connection points were there. And it just really opened it up. Chassidut, it just was like, wow. He was able to take these very, very lofty concepts and bring them down to earth and make it practical. It's just easy for me because I'm a very deep guy. I like deep things. But I have to have simplicity at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what Rabbi Nachman did. And obviously he was an incredible, beyond this world type of human being. And I wanted to take on that name to be able to maybe live in some of that essence as well.
Well, I've only known you for a total of 50 minutes and 42 seconds, and it's very clear to me that you do your name a lot of justice.
No, till that.
If I may say so.
Thank you very much.
I would love to know, as a parting message, even though there's so many more questions I have, but I know that if people are listening to this on their way to work, they're almost there. And if people are listening to this while they're cooking, they're probably almost done. And you'll just have to stalk the House of Lev yourself on their social media page if you want to learn more. What would be a takeaway that you would give to those listening? I would say like a marriage takeaway.
A marriage takeaway.
Yeah. Clearly, the two of you have a very powerful relationship, a lot of love, and I think that's all anybody really wants.
Yeah. I think for us, our biggest, lesson that we learned throughout these years of marriage was communication. It's the biggest thing, because if we don't communicate, we don't have trust. And we're not going to trust each other with our emotions and our feelings and how we want to express ourselves. And that took many years to get to that point. But I would say communication, when it comes to marriage, like, you have to choose to have that. Your spouse should be your best friend, and you should have the most open relationship with them. And I think that we've achieved that, and that we're still continuing to even grow. Like, we don't want to stop where we're at. We're just always on this growth of like, how can we get better, and how can we, grow more in our marriage and strengthen our things. Like, I think the biggest thing is that you find your spouse's strengths and don't focus so much on the weaknesses. It's so easy to look on what they're not doing, opposed to like, what are they doing good? And if you focus on what they're doing good, those negativities will they'll go away, right? But that's like a work in itself. You have to choose to find the strengths. And just know that men are totally different than you. Like, you got to be okay with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would say everything she said, the strength, very, very important. Your wives should never, ever have to second guess your love. It's one thing to just say, I love you, hon. I love you. It's one thing to say it. We can say it all day long. They should also feel it. Most importantly, they should feel that you love her 100%. And it should never be a question. It should never be a question. How do we get to that point? You got to always focus on the good points. Always focus on the good points. Like she said, it's easy to find the faults. We all have them. But it takes effort to only focus on the good and speak to that good every single day. Encourage her, pull out those good points, tell her her strengths, tell her what you love about her. If that's hard, which in most cases it is, I would even first say to make sure that us men, that we have a strong personal relationship with Hashem. Because we can't give from an empty cup. We can't give. We, men, we receive from Hashem, then we give to our wives. So if we don't have a connection with Hashem, then our wives are in trouble because we're giving something that we don't have. And now when you try to give what you don't have, Now you're forcing something and they can feel it. And then that's when they start to question whether they can feel your love. They can't feel the love because you don't have nothing to give because you're not connected. So it has to be time. Spend time with Hashem every single day. Rabbi Nachman says, spend an hour a day pouring out your heart, talking to Hashem. Just like you talk to your wife. Just like you talk to your mom, your best friend. Just like we're talking now is how we talk to Hashem. Here's what happens. The stronger that relationship gets, the more we trust. How do we build trust? We build trust when we spend time together and when we talk. Same thing with Hashem. The more time we spend together, the more we trust Him. And the more we trust Him, the easier it is to live a happy and successful life. And when you have that relationship, you're happy. You just be happy, right? You gotta be happy, joyful every single day. Happy. If you're not happy, then you're in trouble.
And he does a really phenomenal job. Like, he's very big in our home about Shalom Bayit, peace in the home. He works very hard. He strives to have Shalom Bayit in our home. And I very much so have seen a shift in him. Like, he was already growing before, like, Judaism, but Judaism changed so much more because of also to that concept of Hibodadu, spending time, secluded time. Like, I want him to go for that hour of secluded prayer, because when he comes back, for example, I always like to share this story. If you look out of the view of our house where we're living, there's a big mountain in the back. And sometimes he'll walk up the mountain and he'll go spend time with Hashem. And for some reason, I always know when he's done, because he's walking down the thing and I'll look out the window and he's like this. And he has this big smile on his face. And I'm like, this is going to be a good day. Like, it's just that peace. Like, when he has that, I know our home has that. I know. And it's funny because he's even like daily, like, he's like, are you happy? He's asking everybody in the house, are we happy? Are you happy? Let's be happy. And it's beautiful. And he does a phenomenal job. He's an amazing husband, amazing father. And I'm very, very proud of his growth and how much he does. Like, he helps with around the house. How I could do this is, he asked me, is there anything I can do for you before I go do this? Can I do this? He always puts me first.
And look at what happens when you mindfully focus on, how can I live the best life? How can I have the best relationship? It's not a secret of what to do. It's just a matter if we have enough discipline to do it.
Right.
And as you were sharing, I thought, oh, this again, like, this is so Rabbi Nachman, like, profound, simple in idea, and reflective in formula. Do this, impact, and tremendous joy. And I think a lot of people listening to this episode are going to feel that way, impact and joy. And I know it's been very inspiring for me. So thank you so much for coming all the way in to share your beautiful story of hope. It has been a pleasure. Wow.
The pleasure has been all ours. Thank you.
Definitely.
It's our zchut to be here. And you should continue to have bracha in everything that you're doing. You're changing lives.
I mean, I feel like this is where I would say, like, no, it's my zchut to be here, and then it's my zchut to be here. But really, I'm so humbled, and we started off as, interview guests, and now I hope that we're ending as old friends.
Of course, 100%.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of Stories of Hope, and honestly, thank you just so much for still being here and believing in us and enjoying our content. My job is to make sure that we provide what the world needs. And there's a lot out there, and I want to be different. So if you think that there's something else we should do, if there's a certain episode or idea that you're waiting for, I am so ready to share it. So please come forward by letting me know, by emailing me at soh@meaningfulminute.org. I so look forward to hearing from you. If you enjoyed this episode, if it left an impact for you, please take 60 seconds to let Akiva and Chava know in the comments section below. Your comments mean so much to them. And imagine it was you sharing your life and then having strangers share how it impacted them. So thank you once again for being a part of the SOH family. Looking forward to hearing from you because it's not my mission, but our mission, and can't wait to see you again next week.